I'm the only white face in this area. You don't belong here. Stop, I'll shoot you in the back.
Yo, what's up, guys? Mike here from Copville, episode 3. I got my good friend Alex, Christopher, YNW Belly. I got about 27 names for him. Former detective that worked with me. I can't spell his name. I really don't know if that is his real name, but allegedly it is. We've been friends a long time, but I can't spell it. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man. And I know for a fact you can't spell that.
No. And
I've seen my name in your phone before.
And you actually told me you wanted me to keep it misspelled for your thumbnail for the show to show everybody how bad it really is.
It's
So
part of the mystique, man.
It is. And I think I've had it in there probably 10, 12, 10 years.
It's got to be at least 10 at this point, yeah.
I have no idea how to spell your name. The easiest way for me to spell it is like Bellefleur, because that's how it sounds.
I can tell you it's been spelled worse many times.
Good. So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, who you are, where you worked, where you work now, and give us a little background so everybody doesn't think I'm talking to a bunch of losers.
Yeah. So I was a detective, worked primarily narcotics and major crimes on the east coast of Florida. Mike and I worked for the same agency in the Univers County Sheriff's Office. We worked as detectives together. We worked as partners together. We ran down zones together when we got in trouble a couple times. We did the whole career ups and downs together. Yeah. We left law enforcement.
Yep, we both did early. So
I currently work for a digital analytics company. We do wiretapping and.
So I left and took the hard right off the bridge, like we joked about, and you kind of stayed in the realm of law enforcement. So you still deal frequently with cops and agencies and stuff like that.
Yeah. At least within the southeastern U.S., I would think that a lot of the guys that are watching this probably seen me wandering around their agency at some point.
Actually, you were in Arkansas not too long ago, and the guys knew. Mentioned my Cobbville, and you were able to show them that you actually know who I am personally.
Yeah, I was up in Arkansas, was with some of the boys up there, Arkansas State Police.
Wild.
I was with the human trafficking unit, Matt Foster and those boys. If you watch this, we took a selfie with the guys and sent it to you because they share Cobbville memes.
And what pissed me off, I sent you back that sticker, and then I realized like an hour later I'd actually have an Arkansas State Patrol patch. So
law enforcement's a small world, man.
It is.
But one of those things that, especially now that I've left, I'm wandering around. It's the same people over and over again, and it's the same agencies with the same problems. You'd be shocked. The guys that do the work, they all speak the same language, though. So,
do you notice it's a shrinking group of guys speaking that language? Is it smaller than it was 10 years ago?
Oh yeah.
And I know you can't go crazy, but obviously you go into agencies, and I imagine you're saying that you hear the same type of problems from where you're visiting, same category, admin issues.
Yep. Everybody's got a problem with the admin. Everybody's trying to fight the good fight, but either bad prosecutors, state laws, legislation that doesn't work in their favor. Everybody's fighting the same internal politics. That's the one thing that stands out, though. I mean, I think guys fight more problems inside of the building than they really do.
I've said it all along.
Outside of it.
I said it all along. Every time I've been on a podcast and asked about trauma or issues, I've seen the worst of the worst. We've been on some of the worst of the worst together, and I can go to sleep at night knowing I gave my best.
Yeah.
Did all I could to save lives. Sometimes I didn't get saved, but the amount of garbage that happens inside those walls and the way people twist and turn, to me, is the most traumatic thing I've dealt with in my 23 years.
Oh man, if all we had to do was chase bad guys all day, there'd be no problems.
Like Paul Wall said, just put bad guys in jail, man.
Drugs and evil.
Drugs and evil.
If somebody could make an agency this is a challenge to your followers. Somebody can make an agency where I don't have to go to the administration ever, and all I have to do is answer calls for service or investigate stuff. You give me a shout because I'll go back into it at that
And
point.
I remember going when I took the move from patrol sergeant to that mace unit sergeant, I knew it was the worst idea I was ever doing. I knew it, but the sheriff, the undersheriff, and the deputy chief asked me to do it, and just getting back into that garbage Monday meetings and all that nonsense that comes along with it. And I was on the road just putting people in jail as a sergeant. Like I managed everybody, but my philosophy was I don't care how many stripes I got, people still got to go to jail. And
But you had to.
Yeah.
Like, so that's part of those issues though, because if a guy like you wasn't in that spot, then you have somebody who's just occupying a space and the guys can't do the job that they need to do.
Yeah.
Your guys knew that they could throw down, protect, and serve,
and
as you know, the famous Scott Sposato would say.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to worry about it because they knew that you had their back. And I'm not saying to cover up anything or any of that. They just needed to know that when they made split-second decisions, that you were going to support the decisions that they made.
Yeah.
And that was the importance of you getting promoted to that spot.
And that's why, that's where I came from. And when I had guys that did the same for me as supervisors, and I immediately saw when I moved that position that, those Monday meetings and, they wanted to put these guys that are SWAT guys and narc vice guys, and they started trying to put them on call for homicides and burglaries and rapes. And I'm thinking, what planet? Like Publix would not take the clerk at the front bagging and go, hey, you're cooking your grocery or your bakery today. You're going to bake it. Paul, you say it all the time.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't put the guy in the meat department in the bakery. Like,
you can't do rocket surgery.
And I don't know what happened. Yeah. And I don't know what the thought process is behind that. Like I get moving around. I get like you should be well-rounded. Like you and I, we spent a good amount of time bouncing back and forth between patrol, narcotics, FTO, back to detective, general crimes, and we kind of always got tabbed to go, pulled to help. But I don't know where you go the white guy shuffle. I know you're thinking it. I'm thinking it. Paul would move more was black, and he would call every time there was a promotion cycle or a reorganization for efficiency, as they would call it at the agency. He would call, yeah. You see the white guy shuffle that's going on? All the white guys are shuffling positions around the agency, and it was hilarious.
And some of that, like, it is funny because it literally was always just white guys,
and it's true.
It's 100% true. It was just the
same five dudes in church clothes, picking up their stuff, and it was like when you change classes in high school and you had to move, you pick all your stuff up, you go, just keep rolling them over, man.
There was that one time he set up the bingo. He did the white
guy bingo,
the white guy shuffle bingo. And he called it the October surprise.
Yeah.
When the movement came in October, he calculated who had the most right picks on the organizational chart.
And then he would add up their arrests. He said, this motherfucker got 4 arrests. This dude's got 3 arrests. Ain't no real goddamn police on this list. Bro, it was too much. And I knew right when the email would come out, it would be within 30 seconds. That fucking phone would be, here it comes. Hey, man, you see this shit? And I'm like, oh, man.
It was either the phone or it was the group chat.
Oh, dude, that group chat we had was 7, 8 years of just.
It was the longest, most debaucherous.
Yes. And he would get mad at us and he would just go in 3 in the morning.
Yeah, dude. For no reason sometimes.
Yeah,
with Paul Wall, there was no one-on-one arguments. There had to always be there was going to be a witness, and it was going to be one of us.
And he had some of the best lines, one-liners. Like, that dude tried to bite my flashlight. Like, he had to say the wildest things. But at the core of that, he especially for a military guy coming 20 years military, then coming law enforcement, it was simple to him.
For sure.
You just put bad guys in jail. The hell with the email signature and all the fancy stuff.
No.
Those guys go to jail. And he used to joke about
they're lucky that he never wanted to do one of those email signatures because he had some shit on there that really
just his military background is I've talked about
stuff that could really upset some people.
Yeah. And I used to laugh. Like, this guy was a first sergeant in the 82nd Airborne, America's 911, ready to go to war.
Ranger tab.
Yeah, all of it. And he's over there taking orders from some dude that's like grew up in small town and never left it. And
at one point, it was, I mean, it's funny to think about now. I was more or less sent to his shift
Mhm.
because I was too proactive for
Yeah.
the supervisors I was working for, and they're like, "We're gonna send you over to Paul because
Yeah.
and that was the worst thing they ever could have done because he just encouraged it."
And now I think even then there was at least a couple shifts. I think it's gotten worse and worse as far as proactive shifts. Those days are just about gone.
I don't know that there's any since Matheson's left.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, you
Yeah.
take him out, and I'm not knocking anybody that's in charge. It's just not the
maybe
same.
Willie's shift.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm biased on that one, obviously. My wife works on that shift, but I know they have.
See, I'm so out of it. I
Yeah,
didn't even
yeah,
know
she
that.
works for him, and I know
uh,
Lester has a good shift. He preaches proactive, and he's proactive himself. So, I mean, and I'm not I don't want to knock anybody else that's a lieutenant or a sergeant there,
Yeah.
but I just the fact of the facts.
I couldn't name them right now if I had to.
I can, but I'm not
The,
going to. But so how has the transition for you been from law enforcement to civilian world?
You know, it was different.
Mhm.
So I felt like when I left, I wasn't necessarily ready to leave, but it was an opportunity that I wasn't necessarily ready to, pass up on. And at the same time, I was tired of the shenanigans.
How long? And I know you love being a cop, so I'm
Yeah.
sure. So how long did you have to kick it around before you finally pulled the trigger?
It was honestly about a year.
Mhm.
Like I dabbled.
Money was way better, but it didn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I realistically didn't pursue it, and there were other things that came up that were way more. It just wasn't it wasn't something that I thought I could transition into.
Mhm.
So I had to wait for the right opportunity in the right field. And
Do you feel that things at the agency pushed you further to get to that point?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
like that was the icing on the cake. It like I said, man, if they would have just let me put bad guys in jail and work cases, I would have done it for free.
Mhm.
I would have chased people all over the hood.
Yeah.
It I can't tell you how many times I volunteered investigative time. I mean, it there's the funny picture that you used to have of me at the county line because
Yeah.
you know,
Think about how many.
I was famous for that a couple times. Like they'd call me and they'd be like, "Where are you?" I'm in a pursuit with the marshals in the
Yeah.
neighboring county, and
We think about all that. Like the other day, you sent me that takedown we did on 60 with the flashlight allegedly being swung.
allegedly,
But think about how many of those off the cuff between me, you, and Paul, those off the cuff, non-planned little side missions we did.
oh dude,
We had so many contacts with informants between the three of us that, I mean, unless they left like the state, we pretty much had tabs on where they were, what they were doing. And that's something I'd like to talk about in law enforcement because most cops are so go to jail, don't go to jail, write a ticket. The way we handled talking to store clerks, talking to homeless guys, talking to a traffic stop, like we developed our own databases outside of the databases of
100%.
and
Yeah.
I mean, how many cases and people did we find just by being personable and having a little fucking, interpersonal skills and being a little savvy out there? I mean, I can't think how many times we found people that nobody thought we could find.
Dude, I mean, we made a career out of it for the most part. I mean, there was the time that CID tried to wage war on me and Paul because
Yeah.
they said that we were interfering with their investigations.
Well, they got to leave the fucking station to investigate. So
I
I'm sure
mean,
that was a problem.
But that was the same time that Chris O'Neill was, running around with murder charges, and they couldn't find him for however long until Paul got frustrated.
Yeah.
And we had to call in the helicopter and a couple other shenanigan resources to lawfully enter and
Yeah, I've been
persuade
there.
him to leave.
I've been there.
I could think of there's so many of them, man. Paul used to take the victory photo before Keith Pearson was taking sideline interviews.
Yeah, he was doing
Paul used to do that.
And it's a shame we got away from that. And that's where my career kind of passed.
But I think that there was a time period where that was no longer valued. So, I'll rephrase that. It was never valued. And, we had,
but there was at least some mixed in, even like a John Burdock appreciated that kind of stuff.
yeah. So John would criticize you in public,
But
but behind the scenes,
he liked that kind of stuff.
behind the scenes, he'd
Yeah.
pat your back,
So-
because I remember him telling me, that me and Paul had to stop everything that we were doing, and that, CID was, had leads that they were trying to work for Chris and for LaToya,
Mhm.
a couple of them that nobody could ever find. And then as soon as the door was closed, he was like, that was good shit.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm glad that you
and,
guys
and isn't that unfortunate that
Boozy and Trigger?
yeah,
Dude,
the guys
I
who
waged war on that.
yeah, I remember. And it's like, guys, you were basically targeted because you were making cops that didn't want to leave the station and go do their job look bad.
Yeah.
And it became our problem.
Yeah.
Like I remember the same thing when I left dope and I was out there running around like a maniac, and they're like, oh yeah, you can't stop this guy. I'm like, what do you mean I can't stop that guy? Now, I get if it's an active investigation,
Dude,
you give me a heads up,
I
but
remember that. That was your 3:45.
Yeah. 10:15 before the day started. I would have, my goal was to come to work 15 minutes early.
Yeah.
And my first transmission was white male, black male, 10:15
Yeah.
en route to the county jail before the shift even started.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
I remember having new dispatchers when we would be doing stuff like that, and we'd call it out, black male 10:15, and they're like, what do you want me to show you on?
Oh,
Show
yeah.
me on a black male 10:15.
Yeah, show me on a search.
But
As long as it wasn't a DUI, I think I was
oh, I know you don't like DUIs. I think you still got sued by that dude.
the FedEx driver.
I mean, for all the shenanigans that we ever did in our careers, the only times I've ever been named in lawsuits were you with the stupid DUI driver that pissed in the middle of the road with me.
Yes.
And faked his injury.
Mhm.
I think he dove out of the FedEx truck.
Got an IA over that.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I had to go testify.
But I was
and,
that was good.
and then Craig Timmer with
Super Timmer.
dude with the longest foot pursuit I've ever been in the hood. And the guy said that we were I forget what the lawsuit said, but it was ridiculous. Basically, I left the dude with Timmer, and he looked at Timmer, he looked at his shoes, and he said
He said that guy got the big clodhopper boots on. He's not no police.
He said there ain't no chance this dude catches me.
And that's a good point, though. I mean, that's something they're looking for. Like, hey, man, this dude, like,
dude.
Yeah.
I mean, but I feel like, selfishly, I like to think of our time and doing things, from my own perspective. But with the calls that I still get from informants and with, the people that we run into,
yeah,
I know that we had respect, at least in the area. And it was funny to see brand new guys out on the street, especially when I was undercover, because, and you know how I used to work. I was always around, even if I didn't get out of the truck.
Yeah.
Like, I was always floating around. If I saw somebody like you, I'd roll the window down and I'd chat. But there were people who I sat and watched their calls for service, and they never knew that I was there.
Yeah.
And to see the way that some of these new rookies, man, they're like face to face with guys that you and I know from history have 3 or 4 bodies, like guys that they shouldn't be.
They have no idea what they're dealing with.
Guys
they're not
that
prepared.
they shouldn't be fucking around with.
No, they're not prepared.
And,
nobody seems to do what I think is, one, nobody takes the job as serious as we did. They don't do their homework. I mean, they can't get in shape and they can't train anyway. But then, like, the next level was always like, it was never, I mean, at some point I had a little ego coming out of dope, but at another point it became, I got that mindset of like, this is the job. The basics of the job is put guys in jail. So the more contacts and the more people I knew and the more I could help out on bigger cases, it was like, I always called like the drug arrest and all stuff that was the minor leagues. That was the warm up. And then when you have a homicide, those times you lost your dope in the dope case or your case got suppressed, that's when you worked your way up to go, okay, I lost that case for this. I lost this case. I did that stupid. Now there's somebody's family member that's dead. Now it's time to make sure I don't do anything stupid and like handle it. And I think that's where being very proactive, you're going to lose cases. You're going to make mistakes, just like I've always said, but those mistakes and those issues build you into a better cop. And a lot of cops don't want to, they're so scared to make a mistake, they just don't do anything.
100%.
I'm not going to go, they don't want to volunteer to go like training. They don't want to be the first one to go. They don't want to do anything in training. They don't want to make any cases. They don't want to look stupid. Fuck, dude, I look stupid getting up in the morning. Like I have no problem looking stupid. So I figured if okay, you got me. I lost. Like, okay, I lost. I'll get the next one. But that built the resume, and that built the ability to put the really big cases together.
Yeah, and I mean, that was one of the things where there were only so many guys who understood it, like, who get it. Um, when I was doing, detective FTO and stuff like that, teaching the new guys as they came into the units, I used to try and tell them the same thing, like, mess up now.
Mhm.
Like, mess up on the stupid burglary, mess up on the dope case. You know what you do? You fucking set up another buy.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. If you mess up the camera, if you mess up the ops plan, none of that shit matters.
Nope.
You start over again. It's not that big of a deal. But you only get one shot at a homicide, man.
Yeah.
And when you swing, you best not miss.
Yeah.
And I mean, at least I can't. I can't live with it.
I think I worked 4.
Those are the things that bother me. But at the same time, everybody, and part of it's because cops just have a type A personality,
Mhm.
but you need guys that are type A enough to be self-driven, but yet able to still receive criticism
Yes.
and not shut down.
Yes.
Because other guys, they either take you as arrogant right off rip, and then they don't hear another word that you say,
Yeah.
and they misinterpret the things that you are trying to explain to them.
And that's I get into it. Well, I know I have a different job now, and I get into a lot of these TikTok cops or these cops that post nonsense, and I think that's part of the problem is they're posting this stuff to be an alpha cop, but they're doing it either inexperienced or they're posting garbage and they look stupid. And then when you criticize them, you're a bully. And it usually okay, some guys go off the rails. I try to be very like, hey, you're a moron. Like, hey, you're doing this. This is stupid. Like, this is not a good idea. And then it gets received like I'm the piece of shit. And it's like, well, I'm trying to help you out. And but you don't want the help, that's fine. And then it gets ugly. Like one recently where she posted me on her story, I clap back. But I see that is a trend of younger cops that they walk the walk, but they really don't. They're not walking the walk. They're walking it, and they're faking. Well, they're walking it too. They're putting all the gear on.
Yeah.
They're not. There's no nothing behind the walk.
Yeah.
But they're walking out like, look at me. I got the light. I got the cool gun. I got the red dot. I got my mags here. I got my mags way up here because it looks cooler. I got them over here. I got the pink handcuffs, or I got the fancy. Like everything's cool, but there's nothing at the end of that walk. They don't have anything to do once they get there because they have not done anything to prepare themselves for what's really going on, and that's a huge problem. And even as an agency as big as ours, it's not a really small agency. I see it now. Like guys can't do basic fucking investigations, like street level thefts.
Dude, they don't have any ability. And so they also don't have good mentors though.
Yeah.
And the ones that they did have, they pushed out.
Yep.
And the guys that try to help. So the problem with our agency is that the culture is just so toxic at this point. So guys either think that if you're talking to them, they automatically question whether you have bad intentions because they've seen so many guys get screwed over, or fucked over and things like that. And you're judged at that agency by your allegiances, even just switching shifts. And it's crazy.
Think who all the bad guys are to the administration. It's all the guys that should be teaching the new guys stuff. Bro. All the bad guys, Matheson, you, me, Paul, all the guys. Spizzato was a bad guy. Like everybody that was a bad guy, when I'm going through a door, those guys are coming with me. So if they're bad, I'll take them. And don't listen to that guy. He's full of shit. I had plenty of people tell me when they got here, like, oh, don't listen to that guy. He's full of shit. And then they're like, holy shit. After 2 years working here, like, you're out there busting, okay. Yeah. I was lied to. And I'm not talking if you have to like me or not. I'm talking about just product.
For sure.
Like you might think I'm a fucking cocksucker, but product wise, I took it serious. And that was what I wanted to do. And I wanted to.
I mean, dude, there are plenty of guys that'll say the same thing, about both of us. Paul, I mean, the three of us, if we include Paul. Dude, I've heard so many rumors about us. At one point, I was like, damn, what do we do next? Like, the stories were just out of this world. Yeah. And I think that some of that, too, though, comes back to guys fear things that they don't know. Yeah. And one of the things that always stuck with me, and I didn't intend it to be, an arrogant statement, but it was actually just me repeating Paul. So when I would ask Paul early, in the career about, whether or not I could search somebody, or, whether or not I had PC for a search warrant, or dude, any of the other crazy, like that dude came up with some crazy shit sometimes. And I would just run stuff by him. And he would come to me with scenarios. I'm sure he did the same thing with
Yeah,
you. He's
yeah.
like, hey, XYZ happens. Like, what do we do? And it's got some random ass answer. It's almost like a sergeant's test.
Yeah.
But
he was thinking. He was thinking outside the box.
yeah. But I asked him, every time I asked him a question about like search and seizure stuff, his answer was normally like clockwork. I can search that, but I don't know if you can.
Mhm.
And I would that was profound to me.
Yeah.
Like that stuck with me.
Yeah.
And then I would have guys that would ask me questions. I would normally reply with that. And some of them would get it. And you could tell when they get it.
Mhm.
Like Joey Shepard.
Yeah, great kid.
Like
Yeah.
he would understand it. So then he'd go look at the rules, and he came back and he's like, I
see
get what you're saying,
Yeah.
because it's from your perspective.
Mhm.
Like you might have the training and experience to justify why you're doing what you're doing.
Yep.
But me, as a new dude who doesn't, I'm unaware of all those things, from my perspective with my training, I may not be allowed to until I can explain. And,
Well, I look at it like a lot of times those case laws that we read come down to like how long you held somebody.
Yeah.
And they see it. They know the guy's nervous. They know the guy's lying. They know it, but they don't document him.
Mhm.
And they don't speak them out loud.
Yeah.
And then they lose it on a suppression because they took too long. And they go, well, he was acting nervous. You didn't
Yeah.
you didn't say it. You didn't document it. You have to like preach it. So that's where like the experience of having guys like us around to bring them along and show them those things and how to document it.
Well, dude, that was one of the things where everybody feared body cameras. And originally I was kind of bummed out about it because it changed the way we did police work. But at the same time, it just became a performance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when we're on the side of the road and we have, a spool of copper wire,
Those are dogs.
we have a spool of copper wire, and you and I are trying to, explain what's going on. All of that turns into, we're putting on a performance for the camera to justify the scenario.
Well, I guess, and that's where I guess it helps, because instead of remembering to write it down later, if you just speak it out loud as you're doing it, like, man, that guy's acting really nervous. That guy's reaching in his pocket a lot. He's looking around a lot. So now you got it documented in your body cam. And
I never reviewed a body camera to write a report.
Me neither.
I was 3/4 of the way done with the report by the time I made it to 43rd and 60th.
When I would do my dope cases, I had such a good memory of everything that happened. When I did buys, I would document the time we left, the CI search, the CI research time, write it down, suspect name, this, and I would throw it on my desk. I might wait 2 weeks. And I could recite it as if it was, how I was with stuff. Though. Like I didn't like it, but I could recite it in 2 weeks and have it, and that's how I did it. But I tried to relay that stuff, and at some point, when I got older, the FTO that trained the new guy and the cycle had gone too far, where these guys were coming out brain dead. They had never done anything exciting.
Well, the quality of candidate changed.
Yes.
So, I mean, when I was an FTO, when you and I were FTOs together, and we started doing that recruitment team, I remember the sergeant of FTO at the time came and he asked me, what my priorities were for people we were looking at the academy. And I was like, I want the guy that failed the academy the first time. Like, I want the dude who got thrown out of the academy. I want the guy who grew up in the group home. Like, give me somebody with a little bit of street, experience.
Mm-hmm.
I can make them a cop. I
always said that
the college student is the one that
pull them back. It's harder to push them forward than it is to pull them back.
So we have that thing here, the academy track, where these kids come directly out of high school, and then they go directly to another single classroom, or they're with the same people
for 2 years,
2.5 years, and they graduate with an associate's degree in criminal justice, and they also get their law enforcement cert. Yeah, but they've never interacted with anybody.
Never been punched in the mouth.
Dude, never been punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point I had my own statistics when we were FTOs about the amount of academy track kids that failed. And we had so many people at the agency that were also instructors at the academy that was one of the admin specials that I got told to that statistic was no longer allowed to be collected.
So there was also like a interagency initiation. I think you you might have an interesting story about how that worked at our agency.
Well, I don't know. There was a interagency initiation. I think that it was more of you and Paul's circle of trust. So I met Paul actually before I knew of you. We'd seen each other on calls, but we weren't like close. Like we ended up becoming throughout our career. And I worked with Paul on a random overtime detail because he was still undercover and he was only allowed to work like one detail a year. And it was Christmas, and we got paired up. And at the end of the detail, he told me I talked too much and that I didn't have enough arrest
to be talking,
to have a conversation with him. So he said, what shift do you work? I said, Bravo 2. And he said, Dilks worked Bravo 3, right? And I was like, yeah. He said, I'm sure he'd love to listen to your bullshit. You should introduce yourself. And I was like, man, fuck this dude. But whatever. So I worked my shift, and you and I had overlapping shifts.
Yeah,
So
I came in at 4, and you worked 10 to 8, and I worked 4 to 2.
Yeah, so we'd have 4 hours every day. And normally the first hour, you were preoccupied because you took somebody to jail at 3:45. And so I'd handle calls for service in your zone because you were tied up. And some of that's just new guy shit. You know what I mean? Like, we did the same thing. We would keep ourselves busy, and new guys would have to jump calls. But I'll never forget the first time I pulled up to you because you're sitting in you're in this little like an outcrop of a local park. And as I pulled up, I could see you on the vehicle locator, so I knew that you were there. And I come around the corner. I had no idea that there was even a trail down there. You were so far down the
turned right on South County. Okay, yeah, I do remember. That's
so
right.
You were so down there on the dirt road, and I pulled up right next to you. You know, young rookie, all excited. I'm like, hey man, I met Paul Wall. He said I should come chat with you. And I was like, I'm Alex. And you rolled your window up, and then you drove off. and I think you even sent me a chat on CAD that said, "Don't ever do that again." So, I don't even think I moved. I think I just stayed right there with the window down for like a solid 10 minutes, just trying to think what my next play was going to be.
That's how it went, man.
Yeah. So it, dude, it had to have been a couple weeks after that we had that use of force incident together. It was
Which one?
So it was
Old Dixie.
It was off of Old Dixie in 4th Street.
The dude with the book bag or something.
The dude with the dope that ended up knowing me, and he was screaming my name allegedly as we.
That was one that they were playing fuck around, and I went up there and just dumped him, I think.
Well, the first dude pulled him over, and then I can't remember if you were the second dude or I was the second.
I think you got there before me.
We got there I think you and I got there about the same time. They were screwing around in the doorway.
Yeah.
And we picked up that dude and slammed him.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. Well, I mean, they were already tussling.
Yeah, they were fooling around with him.
Playing
patty cake.
What would Kendrick say? Yeah. There was a squabble.
Yeah.
They were in the middle of a
I remember
squabble.
getting out like, what the fuck is this? They were playing tug of war or something with the bag. And I'm like, what are we doing?
So we get him in cuffs, and that
was it, huh?
Buddy caught one from way up here.
Get right. It's time to get right.
Yeah. We found the dope in the car. We took apart. He actually had that hide.
Yeah.
He had it. It was like a fake fuse of the amplifier or something. I don't know enough about car audio shit. It looked like electronics.
Yeah, I remember.
There was a bunch of shit in there, and after that, you're like, you're all right, and we kept it moving. Like after that, I mean, then you started doing your bodybuilding stuff, and I knew a couple of the guys in the industry, so we're kind of adjacent to there because I set you up with the
Cody,
with the trainer that you used to use.
That's right,
and
and that's how it was for me when I came from Vero to the sheriff's office, and I went to the first briefing. We were still at the fairgrounds because the building was destroyed from the hurricanes. So I get assigned to Gifford. I got like McNeil, Miller, Matheson, Keppel. There's like all these old timers.
Yeah.
Or new, but old timers and then mixed in with bro, they wouldn't even fucking talk to me. Like I pull up on calls and the same thing. They drive away. I'm like, they're like, oh, there's that fucking rat from Vero. Like, watch out for him. And I'm like, what the fuck? So me and Matheson got in a foot pursuit with Desi Hayes over like 56th Ave and 45th Street, and we chase him around, helicopter around, and then the old bing bang boom, he went to jail. And I remember Matheson cleared the jail, and he pulled up next to me after like a month and a half of ignoring me and was like, hey man, it's my Nextel number. Like, you all right? Like, so you kind of earned your that, and that's how it was back then. And even as far, what year did you start?
14.
So you're talking 14. You're still having to, like, with certain guys, earn your way into. Now they work next to you to pull up and talk 3-4 hours, or running their gums about they tell all their business to everybody. I try to tell cops, you talk way too much.
Yeah,
these guys are not your friends.
No, they're not.
They're not your friends at all.
And some of them are dastardly, man.
Yeah.
They'll try to steal your old lady. These dudes are
good stuff.
Scavengers.
Yep. So, and let's go in, and you downplayed a lot of it. You worked some pretty big cases. You worked some homicides. You got into the company you worked for. You really got good at all that stuff while you were working.
Yeah.
You were like the guy when it came to phone locations, I mean, I looked at that stuff and I'm like, there's circles and square, and you know how I spell. I can't type. But you got into some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, that was my claim, I guess. Electronic surveillance. So that was where everybody pretty much knew me from like the science and technology side of things. It was never anything that our agency particularly valued.
Until you needed them. Until they needed you.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time where I basically got kidnapped from patrol back to
help out with locations.
So I'm sure we'll talk about stuff like that. But I've been minimized on over 100 wiretaps. I've written more than my fair share of them. I've consulted on a lot of marshal cases, things like that, about locations.
You were good. I remember watching
gear trucks. I mean, to this day, I still do consulting and things like that for that stuff. I mean,
so because you work for a company that does all that, but you still get called in as part of that company to help out with locations and
or on my private side. So I'll do it for expert witness testimony on the outside of it. Man, that was always something that it didn't make sense to a lot of people, but it made sense to me.
Were we friends when that one in the dude that executed the guy in VLE? They were robbing. They were calling the people selling weed, and then they were robbing them when they got there, and it happened 3 or 4 times. Gerard Ross knew where the guy was hiding the dope in the woods. That might have been before you.
No, we found the
drug.
We found the stuff on the. It was along the ditch bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I plotted that. That was.
And that was the reason I bring that up is off the cuff police work.
Yeah.
Gerard picked the suspect up.
Hey man.
Drove him back, called me immediately, and was like, "Hey dude, I don't know what's going on, but I just picked this dude up. There's cops everywhere," and I think we talked about it. And
it. Well, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've picked up, throw them in the old front seat of the car. Yeah. Off the record, and that used to be a way that we got down. Yeah. But that was, I know we keep talking to him, but that was like the Paul Wall way. Like Paul only cared about bad guys go to jail.
Yeah, you got to step. And I'm not talking about wild shit, but you got to walk that gray area of the statutes in the Constitution, honestly. And people say, "Oh, you guys are illegal. You guys are bootleg."
But that's not it.
Bad guys.
They didn't know how far they could take it.
Yeah.
I knew exactly the limit of where statute allowed me to go.
Yeah. I started lying to people and making shit up. And I knew at some point they're going to call it one too many times and I'm done. Like, I'm not going to literally kidnap them, and I'm not going to but there was trickery and slick, savvy conversation pieces to have. And
you could do a whole lot without people understanding. I mean, we
maybe not now though. It's flipping bad.
I mean, yeah, some of those, but I'm talking about like we did cold case wires.
Yeah.
Like we did, stuff where we're literally staging scenes to encourage conversation.
And guys aren't thinking of that, man. And I think big agencies are, but
even
that
big
should be done
agencies,
more,
man.
Yeah.
Like I travel a lot, and guys just don't. But the people who would do that, the old school police, they're not around anymore.
No.
It's these new dudes, and these new dudes don't know how or what they can do, and they're all so reliant on, I don't want to say bullshit, but like they do the same recipe every single case. I'm going to do a geofence. If that doesn't work, I'm going to try and beg for, what's the place that Rick Videri works? Crime Stoppers.
Crime Stoppers.
Yeah. We'll increase the Crime Stoppers.
That's
and
not
then,
gonna work.
No, it doesn't work.
Well, and
you
need to
beat the streets down.
Boots on the ground. And that's where I make a lot of detective joke memes, but I think ours was one of the pretty worst ones when it came to guys just, they were always either missing or not in the station, or definitely not follow us, or just they married to their desk for the whole day.
Dude, so when I first went back to, so had the whole wave, with
future endeavors.
Yeah. So, dope unit, working organized crime, TFO with several different, federal agencies, doing all the good shit, back to patrol, disgruntled, all those things. Hang on, we need your experience. Again, whether you like it or not, you have to come back to CID. And then I ended up in major crimes after that. And when I'm there, I'm with Phil. Phil, a phenomenal detective, close buddy of mine, great dude, not a street cop.
No, I don't think he doesn't claim to be.
No. He and I got assigned a stabbing. It was the first one since I'd been back in the unit. And we go down, we're working the stabbing, find out that it originally happened in a rooming house in Gifford. And Phil's like, oh, I'm going to go back. I'm going to write, geofence, blah, blah, blah. I was like, we're going to the fucking rooming house. Like,
we got to talk to people.
So we walk in, all the common area was vigorously searched and, established, to the point where I had a guy come out and he said, hey man, just leave. Like, I got you. We understand. And Phil and I tell Phil, I'm like, we're getting back in the truck. Like, we'll go back to the station. And my desk phone rings, and literally they call us. They're like, hey man, this is the suspect. Please don't ever come back. And they told us, Phil couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So Phil,
boots on the ground, man.
Dude, Phil was so shocked. And he calls over to the analyst, has RTCC make a photo lineup, takes it to the victim, who did not know this dude, and immediately got a positive ID.
Yeah.
And this was from start of case to solved 30 minutes. And he was like,
by going into the hood,
he's like, this is unbelievable.
Shaking the trees and getting dirty.
Yeah, but guys don't do that. Guys don't do that. And but can you blame them? Because my question to you is, do you think that most agencies these days have the guys back?
No.
If that goes wrong?
No.
Because I don't know that I could be the same cop.
No, I'm living proof you can't be the same cop.
Well, I know that. I'm not saying, well, I will say the glory years are gone.
Yeah.
But there's still places.
Yeah, there are. There's guys that follow me. There's like a jump out action page that follows me. There's a couple guys up in Washington State. They have a jump out team. There's still dudes getting down, and they have the support of the agency, but that's diminishing and flickering as well. And I think I'm living proof that you're only as good as the graces, or the graces you're in, because you can make all the last cases, you can make all the great cases, but you step on the wrong side of politics or that nonsense, and you're fucking long gone. I mean, I suffered 3 years of just in and out of what I consider a methodical effort to discredit me and then get me to leave.
Yeah.
And
I was in the same boat.
Yeah, I know you were.
You know what I mean? Like by the same people.
Yeah.
And
I know.
They just allow it to happen.
And that the only common denominator are police work.
Yeah.
Like not talking back. We talked back. We asked questions. We didn't just sit there and go, yes, sir. Okay, we'll go do nothing. Like we refused.
Well, I have no tolerance for ignorance.
Common sense. I was going to say common sense. I got common sense.
So I will never accept oh, well, that's the way we've always done it. I can't accept that. And I can't accept the fact that the failure is on our end. Like, if it's a reasonable accident, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I'm cool with it. If we fucking give it 100%, dude, and we make a mistake, or if you're inexperienced and you make a mistake, I've never been mad at a single patrol dude whose case came across my desk where I knew that they were actually trying to do their job and they made a mistake. The things that piss me off are lazy ass cops that don't do their job from the start and then a case becomes unsolvable, or dudes who slough off reports, or people who are just so damn lazy. But I mean,
But
some of that too also comes to malicious intent. So I think that there are some bad apples out there, and I think that there are guys who don't want to see other dudes succeed.
But what about the supervisors of like the detective division that don't require people to work? That seems like a big fucking problem.
Well, I don't think that they know what's going on.
They probably don't, but
like,
why are they there?
because the ivory tower keeps them
Why are we there?
over and
Why are
over
they
again.
there? Like, come on, man.
And
I'm not even saying that it should be me or you, but come on. Like,
it was abundantly clear that it wasn't me.
yeah,
You got the chance.
Well, I got the chance, but after about 3 Monday meetings where I was like, this is fucking insane.
Yeah.
I was completely the bad guy. And I sat in a room with people that and that it's hard. It was, so the younger me, which we all go through it. We go through the yes phase where we don't want anybody to be mad at us. We don't want anybody to be upset with us.
No.
They tell us to jump on our head and what's Joanna say, spit nickels or something. We would have done it. Like whatever it takes to not, I don't want, are you mad at me? Like that email.
I already said I would have done the shit for free.
Yeah. So, but that was the one phase. Then I got to the phase of like, I'm not, and I don't claim to be intelligent. I'm a fucking moron, but in this specific field, I felt I became an expert.
Yeah.
I knew,
I would agree.
I didn't know everything.
Yeah.
And there was always something new to learn, but I had pretty much figured out how to navigate a shift productively, how to get the most out of guys that I supervised and be motivating enough that people wanted to do their job and excited. And
I think you're downplaying yourself a little bit because there's a whole slew of dudes who would say that from the street level interview, you were one of the best to ever do it. And I know that, especially if there's something sketchy going on, there was nobody I'd rather roam around with. And I think that was why we congregated around each other. Like,
well, we ended up in fucking Palm Bay together.
I was going to say that. I got a picture of you and I both,
and I felt, I felt the same way about you. There was only, as I got
leaning out the window with rifles, allegedly.
As I got further in my career, and the yes Mike man that I was started to question things, and then realized that, we had the POW stickers that only you had to earn that little, kind of like the stickers I sell. Like people make fun of it, but the goon thing. But to me, it's not calling yourself a goon. It's like having a group of guys, and that was just a word I chose because it was easier.
Yeah.
But we had a certain group of guys that had certain stickers on their car that we knew, like when you see that car, because you may have, sometimes you're watching the map, who's where, but in a critical situation, we knew like if you're pulling up to a hot scene and you saw that magnet, you're like, okay, somebody's here that I'm going to find that dude. I know it's one of 5 or 6 guys.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go right to him and we're going to get down. And that's what I tried to preach. And as I saw the entire administration, I hate saying it, and I don't want to sound like a complainer, I'm not, but the entire administration finally at some point didn't have any of that left in them. They didn't have that understanding. They'd say it out loud, but then look what happened to me. Like, look what happened to you. Like they could say they got your back and they want you to go out and do X, Y, Z, but I was out doing X. But the day I got served with my second add-on to my IA, I had a gun to the face of a murder suspect in Fort Pierce after jumping like crazy U.S. Marshals takedown. I'm over there putting my life on the line, 20 years into the job, 21 years into the job, still excited about it, to drive back and get an upcharge after my interview for ethics. And I'm thinking, like, how is this happening? And Matheson pegged it. It was funny. Matheson was like, I was like, nah, dude, like, this is garbage. Like, yeah, it wasn't the greatest case, but it wasn't Like,
Yeah.
he's like, dude, they're gonna fuck you sideways. I'm telling you. I'm like, nah, dude, they would never do that. They would never do that over this minor bullshit.
I remember talking to you about it too, because I was worried because I knew what they did to me.
Wow. Did I get it?
like-
Did I find out the hard way?
And
Didn't even hire an attorney. I went into my fucking meeting without an attorney because I was like, there's no way they're gonna fuck me.
I offered to do it for you.
I know you did.
I was like,
but I was so convinced.
I was like, dude, you got to let me come in and represent you.
I was so convinced, and so was my wife. We were both so convinced that after all the hard work and all the days and nights and all the extra shifts and all the time they called me in and all the times I volunteered to go, and I'm not talking about getting away with something illegal, unethical, or immoral, because I don't consider that instant situation any of those.
Yeah.
I felt like, okay, what I did and what she did should have been the equivalent of a John Burdock, get in my office, shut the door, don't fuck, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Tighten your mouth up,
Yeah.
be smarter. You guys are both sergeants. Now get the fuck out of here. That would have been, and when John Burke was on, that's how it would have handled.
Yeah.
And Lonnie Rich would have handled that way had it not been routed
Yeah.
completely around him and fucked the way it was to avoid him. So that I got the train run on me.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was, and I have the belief that partially because I didn't give a fuck about their little bullshit meetings and stuff, that I was like, this is the wrong thing to do. And then I believe part of it was who I talked about after Joanna's IA and the things I had to say about him. So I think it was a little both.
In hindsight, can you see signs that you missed?
Trying to,
because I think there were things that I saw and things that Christian saw.
I don't think, well, obviously Christian and the sheriff had a huge falling out, and I was playing. Yeah. I could see him changing. I could see the sheriff changing and starting to gravitate towards the yes men.
Yeah.
And then I remember that it's funny. You're right.
Because the thing is, I look at it as being somebody who was probably one of your closer friends at that time. And on the flip side, Christian is one of your obvious, other close friends.
Yeah.
And he and I definitely don't collaborate.
No.
So we were both seeing things even now without pointing it out to each other.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things where it was always super interesting to me after I left. After I left, dude, I'll be honest with you, I took a couple months, just processing it all,
it's
just
tough,
decompressing.
Right? It's tough. People don't realize how tough it is.
And it isn't tough in the aspect of understanding and moving on. What's hard is to be honest with yourself about all the things that you missed along the way and how little things could have changed the ultimate outcome. But I see all that stuff now, and I see all the signs that I missed and the stuff that I was just so caught up
and it's
trying to.
Now you try to tell guys that, and unfortunately, between the fear of admin and the false thought that it's a huge family, they don't want to hear it, and it's frustrating. It's like you're going to experience it with your kids, and I already did it with mine. It's like you're always going to tell your kids you're never going to tell your kid to do something stupid. You're never going to tell your kid to do the wrong thing. So when I look at these guys that were younger than me, I look at them like my kids. I was never going to tell them to do anything dumb. I was always trying to tell them this is how it's going to be, and that's what I think Christian did for me.
Yeah,
Paul did for me. You did for me as a like a sibling type relationship. But you just don't want to believe it.
Yeah,
you don't want to believe that the worst trauma you're going to experience is within the building.
Yeah,
and not out on the street.
Oh no, dude, that's the worst.
And some guys, here's the other thing. Some guys will never know. There's going to be people watch this like it doesn't exist. It doesn't happen.
Oh,
they never, I know, but they never lived outside of the.
It hasn't happened to them yet.
And it probably, some guys, it may never will. If you're not out there, if you go to work every day, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, sir, no, sir, you're never going to experience it. And I'm not talking about being a complete fucking rebel, but when you question anything at all, you start the precedent. Like, he just questioned us.
Yeah.
Put that in the back of my head. Oh, he did it again.
Yeah.
And then you start to go on the way out. And that's, I mean, I was the sheriff's best friend.
I know.
And I'll never forget the day it ended.
But there are people who are just waiting.
Oh, I know they were. I know they were.
Well, not just for you, but for anyone.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Because there are the times where, and you don't even realize. So that's the crazy thing. And that's the stuff that people don't realize is that, you have to go and risk your life with these people. And meanwhile, you don't know whether or not they might be waiting for just one little slip up.
That's what they were waiting for me. It was out. There was
Yeah.
no question that message was put out to look for something.
Yeah.
Because they found mine.
Yeah.
Mine wasn't like
And-
a complaint or anything. Mine was, they were looking for it.
Yeah.
And then they spent 3-4 weeks cooking it up before I even got served. So it was a backdoor.
But I mean, well, it's a total different segue. But like the shit that happened with you and I, that was one simple text message
Yeah.
taken out of context,
Yeah.
sent to somebody who was just waiting to screw me.
Yeah.
And you never know who's waiting in the wings because you had no idea.
No.
You had no idea.
No.
But then you never know who's just sitting around waiting for those moments.
And the higher they are,
the more
juice
pull
they
got.
Yeah.
And the craziest part to me is and you already touched on it, the recency bias, because there were times, man, where we were on top of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were times, honestly, where we could do no wrong. And I don't want to say no wrong.
No, we were doing, but we were doing, I know what you're saying. We were
out
doing
there
so
doing
much
God's
right.
work.
Yeah.
Like it's not that you become untouchable, but you're just doing such a good job that people can't really fuck with it. And, went from doing that to, back on patrol and then, unceremoniously.
Yeah.
And then fast forward a couple months, things break bad so bad that, and I'd been so screwed by the administration at that point that when they were calling me in, I don't know if I ever told you this.
No, I don't think you did.
When they were calling me to come brief me on the case, originally I wouldn't come. So they were like, hey, you need to come to the station. And I was like, scheduled with my attorney.
You were in SIU or you were in
No,
the
I was
road?
on, it was
Oh, that's when they were fishing you back from patrol. Okay.
I was on patrol. I was working West Zone. And they're like, hey, we need you to come to the station. I was like, what's it about? They said, we can't tell you. And I said, you got scheduled with Voglio. I'm not coming without my attorney. And they're like, you can't have your attorney. I'm like, are you going to read me Miranda? And they're like, no. I'm like, then I'm bringing my attorney.
Oh.
Well, what's it about? We can't tell you. I'm like, I don't know what you guys don't understand about if you can't tell me and I can't have an attorney.
Well, they think they're really smart too.
And I'm like, dude, at one point I was like, I'm going to park my Tahoe at the truck stop, leave all my crap in it. I'll turn myself in. I don't know what you think I did, but finally got a call from one of the guys in CID. And he was like, yo, like, we need your help. And I'm like, why the fuck didn't y'all say that? Like, why?
But think what must have happened to you for you to have to even think that way.
100%.
Like you didn't trust that.
Yeah.
You didn't trust the absolute administration you were working for, that they weren't going to like put dope in your backseat on the way to the station or pull you in and have like, what's this in your pocket? That's a shitty way to live.
Yeah, 100%. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Isn't it? But that's what I'm talking about. The reflection is so
and
wild.
That's what Coppville has brought to me is now that I've started the podcast too, it's just calls and messages just similar to ours. I got a guy as high as deputy chief that got ran out of somewhere. I got, guys that were another guy 20 years on top of the world and just makes the wrong guy mad and off you go.
And I see to a certain extent some of the mistakes that we made along the way.
Of course we did.
Like I see places where we cared too much and people didn't understand it. And rather than try to explain to them, we were kind of dickheads.
I was. But I couldn't tolerate. I remember one time Paul and I got a search warrant on like 5 o'clock on a Friday. We went got a guy on a warrant. We smashed the window, pulled him out the window. He goes, man, there was a little house right next to it, like a little duplex. And he's like, the guy's in there, he's got like an ounce of crack and a bunch of weed. And so I walk up to the door. I'm like, I can smell it.
Yeah.
Put him in the car. I'm like, hey,
the old nozzle.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad. It was fresh. It was 2 pounds of like hydroponic. And knocked on the door. One of the best lines Paul and I ever had. We knock on the door. The dude comes out, smoking a fucking joint right in front of us. Blows it. He's like, what's up? And we're like, man, fucking snatch him. We're like, get over here. He's like, I can smoke weed in my own house. I'm like, no, you can't talk. Like, you're standing in the doorway now. And I'll never forget pulling him out. And then I lived right around the corner. So I said, Paul, put both of them in your car.
Yeah.
I'll drive to the house.
I love this.
Yeah, I'll start typing.
Yeah.
And I called the station. I'm like, hey, I got, like 5:30 on a Friday. I'm like, hey, I got this dude. He's got this. They're like, can't wait till Monday. I'm like, there's supposed to be an ounce of crack in the house, 2 pounds of weed. I already put my hands on the dude, so he definitely can't wait till Monday. And I'm like, no. And I caught so much fucking hell. And then they all showed up down there, and guys, fucking 6:30 on a, it takes 2 hours to get the warrant in, out as fast as we could do it. Still took 2 hours from front to back. Pissed off, and there were 2 pounds of weed, an ounce of crack, all kind of shit. Dude flipped on another guy for a kilo in the Highlands, and it just rolled. And I'm thinking, nobody wanted to do that but me and Paul. And they looked at us like, these two fucking assholes got us out here doing our job. At 5 o'clock on it, because I was still in. I was on my transition out of Mace. So it was like 2012. And I was moved back to the station for a little while, but I would go out and Paul would call me, and he was 1103, and we were at 4th Street and 4th Street and 32nd Avenue. I called him direct. He drove down. So, but we were looked at like, these guys are fucking assholes for being out doing this right now. And it's like, bro, like, this is our job.
But crime doesn't sleep, man.
No.
Like the first wire that I did started because of a random traffic stop on Christmas Eve. Jake Kirby was watching. He was getting gas. He was getting gas, and he saw a hand-to-hand. And Otitis McCrae, prison now. Otitis did like an ounce deal with this dude, David Banner, or not David Banner. That's a fucking rapper. Ricky Banner.
David Bonner is a rapper, I think.
No,
is it Banner?
David Banner.
Banner, Banner.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Ricky Banner.
I thought he was going to
and he was on his way back to Fort Pierce, and Kirby was like, I think this is a drug deal. So he stops him out on Oslo, and he calls me. He's like, hey, man.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah. He calls me, and he's like, I wasn't on call. It didn't matter. He's like, hey, man.
They always called.
Yeah. He's like, I'm pretty sure this dude's holding. I'm trying to find it. Blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure I saw it hand to hand. Do you know this dude? He told me about otitis. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
For sure.
I'm telling you that was a hand to hand.
Yeah.
He finds an ounce of Molly in the car. And Banner actually didn't work. Like, I got a good interview on him, but you know how it got, man. Like, if you had somebody in your sights, and we kind of go off the deep end. I mean, I obsessed with cases.
Oh yeah.
And like, I eat, slept, and at the same time, Reeve was working another case that our cases merged. He didn't realize that at the time, but his guy was getting supplied by otitis, and that culminated in a wire and a brick and some other good stuff, and we were moving and shaking. That was
good times, man.
I mean, those were all the things that led down that road. And at the same time, you were doing your thing over in CID, and a lot of the stuff was
they were connecting it all. They weren't doing one; they were doing the other.
Yeah, and a lot of that was you and Lewis. I know you mentioned him a couple times. It like things were jumping, and that was when I thought that the agency was really going.
It was It was the first 2 years.
That was when I thought the agency was really going in the right direction.
It was. No, it fucking was.
The wire was definitely pre new sheriff, but
it continued. Well, he was almost.
Well,
we knew he was going to be the sheriff.
Yeah, he was directing that.
Yeah,
like he was
so and it just rolled into his.
He was very involved in all the stuff that I was doing
back then.
He was getting briefs directly from me, and that was when things were really moving how they were supposed to.
I mean,
and,
I don't mind saying it, but the affair just wrecked the fucking place.
It definitely added a whole other angle of
things were never the same after that.
I think that it comes with the desire to retain power. You know what I mean? So before that, he was invincible.
Yes.
Before that,
and he put the invincible people around him.
Yes.
But those people told him he was a fucking moron.
Very insulated.
And then when that people started saying, like Lonnie going, what the fuck are you doing? Then the fucking everything fell, dude.
See, and that's where I was never privy to any of that stuff. So I never knew those internal.
Dude, there was 2 times.
Now I knew that you were closer to that. Like,
I was at right after the affair. I was sitting at
Like Paul used to call it the puzzle palace, and you were definitely in the palace.
Yeah, I was in the palace, and I didn't know about the affair. I didn't know he was doing it until I got a phone call.
I didn't think it was real.
I didn't either. When I found that out, I was like, "You gotta be fucking kidding me!" Like
And-
this dude.
And I think that we might have chatted about it because I heard about it weeks before
Yeah, I
it
remember.
came out.
Yes, I remember
And
you, Brent. I was like, we were both like, "Nah, man, there's
didn't
no,
think it was real.
no, there's no way." And then so after it happened, I was in Firehouse, and the mistress husband comes up and fucking cusses me sideways.
I remember I remember
Off-
when you were catching strays because
all
of it.
over, and I'm like, bro, like, it's terrible. But the reason I bring that up is that to me was the beginning of
That was the catalyst.
yeah, that was it. That was it, dude. I mean, shortly thereafter, Lonnie falls, and then I was in the mid.
The casework was at an all-time high.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, I remember us climbing in trees.
The care about police work shifted.
Yeah.
Like it just created, I don't know.
Running through groves.
Yeah, yeah, dude. We were. I mean, there were so many things we did and did. And I think it just that to me was the changing of the entire, because he became vulnerable because he was outed.
Yeah.
And he had to save face, and his way of saving face was just to disappear.
Yeah.
And then there was just a lack of leadership there for a while.
Yeah.
And there was
I think that that's where things went sideways.
Mm-hmm.
And I've told a lot of people this, and I know that your situation is somewhat unique because you're close to the flame, and we can potentially agree to disagree on this hot take that I'm sure you're going to take it as a hot take.
Yeah.
I've never had a personal issue with any decision that Eric has made. I've had issues with decisions he didn't make.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know. I get it. I get it.
I have issues where,
and actually, I do too. But probably different people.
I have problems. Yeah, I have problems that, in his absence, I felt people were undermining his authority and making poor decisions, and he wasn't around to stop them because he was dealing with a lot of his own personal stuff.
And again, we are separate sides of some of those people.
100%.
Way on the other side. But at the core, my initial statement was, and we may have two different reasons, but that incident caused a lot of problems on both ways.
That is definitely
because it swung against your way where you caught hell.
Yeah.
And then eventually it swung all the way back this way.
Oh yeah.
And it went from, it was just let all these guys bully people for me because I'm absent, maybe.
Yeah.
Or let these guys run this place, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And then it came. Savita says he never said that word in his life. I'm just going to leave it there. He claims he never said that. But then it swung so far back the other way that the people that were still going like me going, bro, what the fuck, dude? Like, what are you doing? And it became, and I'll never, like, I was going to say this earlier, the day there was a promotional, I was sitting at the, whatever that, the Woods of Ear, the old Woods of Ear, whatever place is called, that fucking 20th Avenue in Oslo, that shitty apartments, whatever that's called. Preserve Oslo. Preserve Oslo.
Where we drug out that dude who burned the chick. And,
the one that committed murder. Yeah. So I'm sitting there and I'm a sergeant, and I got one of them guys finds a rifle in like the woods back there. He's got the rifle, and he's like, I think, and he's running the serial number. He's doing a great job. New guy, great guy. I think it was Finnegan, Zach Finnegan. Real good cop.
Good cop.
He's like doing all the right things. He's getting it all. He's like, oh, I found where the gun was stolen. There's a victim in town. I'm like, well, yeah, you can return it. And this email pops up with the promotions and transfers. And I looked at it and I'm like, you have got to be fucking kidding me. And I went, just like I did to you. And he's talking and the window went up and I was like, I fucking gave him that. I just drove away. And I'm like, I cannot believe what I just read.
What was that email? It
was the promotions.
I know, but which one stood out to you?
It was a certain person to lieutenant of IA and promotion, the female promoted to lieutenant of IA, and it was just a wild list. And that was when they passed Lewis up.
Okay, yeah.
They ended up, Casalo quit the next day, and then he got promoted the next day.
Yeah.
But when I saw that list, and I'm not, it to me it showed the direction.
That was a weird list.
It showed it was loyalty promotions. It was buffer promotions. It was, and I knew at that moment, and we were not talking, me and him, and we were actually until that came out. And
that
I
was
was
the
like,
time where they picked the 26th and the 27th
yes,
person on the list.
yes. And that was
I
when,
know because I was at the time.
yeah. So that's when, and he tells everybody it's because I was on steroids that I stopped associating with him, and he knew there was a problem. The problem was on that day. I looked at that list and I went, okay, like this place is done. And I remember calling Christian. I'm like, we're done. Like we're done. Like it's over. He's gone mad. And that was it. That was the beginning of that was it. That was it. That was the beginning of it for me. And I was like, well, it was a good run. So
It
was an insulated promotional to buffer him from all the controversy.
100%. Yeah. So I didn't see a lot of those moves. That's like
were you there?
Oh yeah,
okay.
I was there.
Okay.
Like I said, I was at the top of those.
That's right. You were you kept getting passed over.
Yeah.
Number one didn't pan out, huh? You were number one or top? You were up there.
I was always top 3.
Yeah.
Because
you were right below. You were just below me when I got promoted. You were on it that year, right?
Yeah. That was year 1.
Okay.
That was
you made it though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we studied together and stuff.
Yeah, that was year 1. I was like, that was when I got like Officer of the Year.
Yeah,
and I get the letter from.
It was coming around. It was almost where.
I get the letter from the governor about great work that I'm doing. I'm floating around Tallahassee. We got agencies from all over the state. Sending the sheriff thank yous about cases I'm helping with, all kinds of stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is really about to pan out.
No.
And
that's like my.
And I remember, dude, it was the most bizarre thing because that was also when we expanded the unit. So
that's right.
They asked me to do the oral boards for the new dudes, and I was actually told that I was doing the oral boards
for your to got to take your spot when you got promoted.
Yeah,
yeah,
and it never happened.
No, so it didn't. They forgot that part.
Dude, I got a call one time from a guy that you mentioned you don't like. That he called me on a Friday and he said, "Hey man, I don't want you steaming over the weekend. You're going to be promoted on Monday." And he was a guy who was in power and had the ability to make those decisions. And I was like,
awesome.
Nice. Yeah,
great weekend.
Yeah. I'm like, that's fantastic.
Monday blues.
Monday never came around. Man.
Tuesday's gone with the wind, huh?
Yeah. I had a couple of those selections that worked out right. And I had a couple of them that definitely didn't. And and then I finally, so that's like the recency. So fast forward a couple of years and you go through I remember having you in my ear, like, you gotta, just play the game, redeem yourself, blah, blah, blah. So I kept doing the work, and when they needed it, they gave me the sob story about, a couple of corrections officers were going to get killed if I didn't, come do the job. So came in and, was doing God's work. And then that promotion came out, ended up sadly being, your spot.
Yeah.
But
Buddy got it.
Yeah.
Hard worker, man.
And it's one of those things that was super weird because I was like,
well, that one wasn't weird. That was political.
Well, no, but in my shoes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because I was sitting there and I was like, honestly, I really thought I was going to get it. And I know that I was in the consideration for it, and they told us, like, both he and I knew. And I was like, they just had to bring me in because they didn't have the capability without me, like, for this position.
That would have been smart too, because you could have let
the more qualified dude.
You could have let the two guys just run the streets, and then you would have been in position to help him if you needed him, and then you had all those experience in. Because the guy they promoted was absolute garbage.
But I was so conflicted because I was like, as awesome as it would have been to be in that spot, I was like, they just fucked you.
Oh,
to do it.
Yeah, but I would have slept better if that was you that got promoted and not the moron.
But you see where I'm coming from.
Yeah, it would have been bittersweet. But I would have rather, again, I would have been better. I'd have felt better because the guy who got promoted was, bro.
It was the same way.
Still now I hear about the nonsense with that dude.
Because everybody found out that you were demoted before the vacancy came out. And
Yes.
the same dude, when I sent my email for that JVA, it was the same way that I felt when I sent my resignation. So I almost didn't put in for that JVA.
Nah, I wish you
It-
would have got it. Would have made so much sense,
because
dude.
I sat there and I looked at it for like 30 minutes, and I didn't agree with a lot of the stuff that was going on, and it was one like that was my internal protest, almost like Paul never
Tested for
voting.
yeah. Oh yeah, he
He,
never yeah, that's
he,
right. He
he
never
never
voted in one
voted
election. So he could talk shit to us about who he voted for. That's
yeah,
why he did
he
it.
never voted in a single election because he said he didn't trust the outcome.
Yeah.
And
But it,
that was how I felt. I
yeah.
was like,
but then they promoted the person that made the least sense. Like it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense. And I'm biting my fucking tongue because I really want to say all the shit that dude did that I know about.
yeah.
And I'm gonna let that go because I don't want to cause personal problems at the house. But
What do you miss?
what do I miss?
Yeah.
Putting bad guys in jail.
Yeah.
That's it. I miss that the rush of 3 informants deep on calls or shaking a dude, finding a dude behind a gas station, and I know no, go see this guy, go there, and then catching the guy. That's all I miss. That's it. I hate going to the station. I hated everything about it. I hated all the politics. I just wanted to put bad guys in jail.
I miss working those things with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like
We had a good time.
I miss us being a part of that. I miss chasing, DeAndre Love.
Yeah.
You remember the
beard,
the shooting? Yeah. Dilks, where'd your beard go?
Yeah. They knew more about us than we knew about them sometimes. Like their research was really good. But who could walk up there? We were deep in hood, 33rd Avenue, worst places in the county. And we're standing just walking around talking to people like and I tell my wife all the time, we could get in the car right now after this podcast.
Yeah.
We could drive up there just as we sit dressed like this.
Yeah.
Ain't gonna have a fucking problem.
Not
one person's gonna give us lip.
Yeah.
Like I have to keep telling people I left. They're like, "Oh shit!"
Same thing with
here
me.
comes Dilks. I'm
I
like,
still
"No, dog.
I
I'm
still
good,
have
man."
people call me.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And the other side of that, I can remember Paul almost like having to stick up for us and things like that because Paul used to tell people that I would go patrol Gifford on a pogo stick.
Yeah.
If he was like, if you take that dude's patrol car, you'll see him hopping around.
Dude, there was a time
and
when I came out of when I first went back when I was working at 4 to 2, I didn't leave till 2:50 a.m. I stayed an extra hour almost every night because it was so hot with Winston's, and I felt bad leaving. I felt bad leaving the A4 or B4 guys.
Yeah.
So I would stand out there on my own time every night for an extra 45 minutes to an hour, just because I'm like, I can't go home and go to bed knowing this craziness is going on, and there's gonna be like 3 guys working this whole county north of here, like for the next 4 hours. So I'm like, I'm not doing it. So I would stay up there and work and just sit there.
It sounds absolutely fucking crazy, but I used to leave my radio on while you were working, like during the hot hours. And that was why when Kool-Aid got shot, I was one of the first dudes there. And actually I stopped out with a call, or I stopped out on my way because Joanna wasn't responding to her radio.
About yelling at somebody.
Yeah. But I heard the call come out because I'd get home and I knew that you guys were in the middle of it because I'd go home right in the heat of the moment, and it wasn't that much longer after. No, so
it was rough.
I remember looking at my wife and I was like, "Hey, I gotta go." Like I can't explain it to you right now, but some bad shit just went down, and I gotta bounce.
All right, let's end on some good notes. So give me like the old standard cop stuff. What positives did you take out of your time at the sheriff's office in law enforcement?
I would say personal skills from the top. There's nobody that I can't talk to. There's nobody that I don't understand. Cops are by far the greatest customer servants in the world.
Yeah, Tyler says that too. Yeah.
I mean, a cop can solve any problem and can talk you through it as long as you're willing to talk through it. And that's one of the things, like in my current job, I could walk through a room full of vultures, dude, and talk to anybody. That's not a problem. I can get through to the admin if they want to hear it, I can get through to your detective. I can talk to Joe Blow on the street, and I'll get down with the corner boy. It doesn't matter.
If you could go back and tell yourself that started the job something right now, go back and tell yourself, your young, wild whippersnapper self, what would the message be?
Man, that's a tough one.
That is tough, right?
That is a tough one.
Just think, you're an FTO and you get to walk up to yourself for 5 minutes and give yourself like a couple sentences of advice.
I think I'd just tell myself not to chase those people's approval, because
That's a big one, man.
That's the
Mhm.
That's part of the root, man.
Yep.
That's one of the biggest things.
Yep.
And
the constant need to feel validated by people who don't fucking care about you.
But how much of that's culture?
It is.
Like, that's our culture. We don't tell people that they did a good job enough. And that's part of the reason that people, I think, seek that validation, because they don't hear it. And I know that was something that you tried to do when you were a supervisor. You tried to reward people. You tried to, tell them that they did a good job, things like that.
Well, it's important.
Those are the things that I tried to do. Like, if somebody did a good job, I wasn't their supervisor or anything else, but I made sure to send messages so people would get it.
But the actions have to follow the words. It's
sure.
easy to say, oh, you did a great job, but
Yeah.
then they fucking treat you like shit still. So it's like, I tried to do the actions. I mean, there were times I remember when I first got promoted, one of our people, I'm not really fond of, but I'm not even going to say it, did some real dumb shit on a call in a pursuit. And the old me would have been talking shit. But me and Madison pulled him in, sat down, watched the video, broke it down. Like, hey, this is how you get better. This is what I see wrong. Like, I don't want to see you get killed.
Yeah.
And I took that maturity of like, okay, I'm in charge now. I can't hate this person anymore.
Yeah.
Even though I couldn't stand them, it was like, I have a responsibility.
But
I have a responsibility to try to make them successful.
But that was misunderstood too, because, or at least from my perspective, you might have meant it more than I did, but a lot of the jokes, like, that was, I think, a way that we expressed ourselves.
Yeah.
So like, we would, you can't take it too seriously.
Yeah.
We would razz on dudes and I still do.
Yeah.
Like,
but some people,
that's my love language.
Some people though, like,
if you can't,
Joanna makes the point though, sometimes it can get a little too much. Like certain guys, like Oreo used to get picked on a lot.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, he's such a nice dude, and you guys are razzing him all the time. It's like, let up. So
one of the best dudes in the world.
Oh yeah, great dude. But yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah. So like, because she doesn't, she's very self-conscious about her decisions.
She's far more grounded than we are.
Yes, but she's also like very, I don't want anybody mad at me. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to do the wrong thing.
Well, she's a perfectionist.
She is, but she's very, and it's for the right reasons.
Yeah.
It's because this is how it should be. So like, if I know, like, there's certain things that even if it's borderline, you don't razz certain people, because that's going to send them down a hole of like,
for sure,
I'm a complete disaster, and you don't want to get that out of people. But like I said, I tried to be a good supervisor, and I knew what it was like to go 20 years almost without getting promoted, and going through all that, failing the test. I passed it once and I got promoted. And
you just needed the one time.
Even then, it took a couple curveballs. I'm the old. He almost had it. The guy with the fishing thing. So that meme's been used a lot. Raises, promotions.
I still got the one with your face on it from the
the JVA poking the stick, like, do something. We're waiting for the promotion.
Oh,
what a shitty fit. Just think about that. I got about 5 minutes left. Just think about how crazy that was. Like, waiting for those positions to come out, and you're like, you're stressed about something you can't control, and it's not going to be in your favor anyway.
Yeah.
But you like, man, I really did. I worked so hard. And I'm not talking about you're saying it out loud to people, because the people that tell everybody they work so hard didn't.
Yeah.
But when you're in your heart, you're like, man, I fucking, like, you're like, I'm missing the wife. I'm going to work. They're going in when I don't need to be. We all did it, dude. We stayed at work so long, didn't bill. And then you get passed up, and you're just like, and then people look at you like, oh, you shouldn't be getting upset. But some people don't understand the level of intensity that went into like our work. And
no.
like,
Well, that was part of the problem.
Sleeping in the station for
we
3 or
did
4
care too
days.
much.
Like I don't even know if it's dark or light outside some days after like 2 or 3 days of a homicide.
Dude,
like I don't even know what day it is.
Like we did care too much.
Yeah.
And I mean, all of those times, as I reminisce on those cases and things like that, there was a lot of times where it was the three of us. It was me, you, and Paul running around, and those are the memories that I take.
Yeah. And he was, he was the dad.
For sure.
He was the one that kept both of us, because you and I would kick the can much faster.
Yeah.
And he'd call me like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Like, what are you doing? Like, and it was like, okay.
He talked me off the ledge a lot of times, man.
Yeah. No, he did.
There was a bunch of times I was ready to jump ship.
Yeah, me too.
And the time that I knew when it was time to go was when I called him and I told him I was going to leave, and he didn't talk me out of it.
Yep.
He said it was the right move. And
that's what he told me that at the end. One of the last conversations I had with him, he was like, man, they really fucked you, dude. He's like, they ran you through. You didn't deserve what you got. He's like, don't let them break your spirits. I said in my speech, he's like, don't ever let them break your spirits. You're a good cop. You're a good dude. They put you through fucking hell. And it's like, coming from a guy like that, you're like, you know what?
He doesn't talk feelings a lot.
And that's what's, and you know what? I look at it like, fuck it. If I went through all that pain to have a guy like that look at me and go, say those things about me, that trumps any bullshit they could say about me or try to paint me as. So that meant a lot.
No, he had a similar conversation with me, and he famously told me that if I didn't have any black friends, I would have been a general.
You'd have been a general, huh?
Yeah. He was like, you have every characteristic that you need.
Except you have a black friend.
Yeah, he said you have too many black friends.
Dude, he was nuts.
He was out of control.
Well, man,
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad you come. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate that you were one of the few people that made my law enforcement career successful.
Yeah.
Because there's only 4, 5, 6 guys you can look around in the room and know that they're thinking the same thing as you, and they're prepared to go to war with you, and they're prepared to work 22 days in a row with you. And when you look around the room and you make that eye contact with, like me and you did, and be like, well, you didn't have to say anything. We just like, here it goes.
It's time to go to work.
Yep. So I appreciate you coming on. And
I appreciate you having me. And before I leave, I wanted to give you a token. So somebody told me that you never go on a podcast without a gift.
Okay.
So this is something I acquired with Paul.
This goes in the podcast room?
Yeah, this is going to go up on the shelf. So
all right.
This is a private citizen tag that Paul and I snagged off a vehicle. We had to break the window, pull the
Sovereign, huh?
Yeah, the guy they got all the.
I'm sure that didn't go well with Paul.
It's the dude they got all the pictures of inside the courthouse. That if he comes, they got to call 911.
Oh, the state attorney's office and all that has it.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Tyler came on, didn't bring a fucking thing. So you're the first guest to come on and give me something. So I appreciate it.
He's got to do better. So I figured that's something that when you get this place all set up, you could set it on the wall and tell a story. So dude walked up, or I walked up to the car, saw the tag. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
That was on the back.
Yeah, this was on the back.
That was like a souvenir front tag.
Yeah. So I called it out, and I said that.
P-pop. Did you give the whole traffic on P-pop or Romeo? Well, Deputy Lugnut traffic.
Well, when I was really doing police work, this is not advisable to anybody, but a lot of times I'd already made contact by the time I ever got on the radio.
My wife will punch you for saying that.
I know, it's terrible. Yeah. But so in the moment, I don't want any distractions. So there were people who knew that I was there, meaning that we had plenty of those pursuits where it was over cell phone and everything, allegedly. I made contact with the dude, and he's like, I'm a free traveler. And Paul had just got there.
I can only imagine.
And Paul said, "You about to travel out the window?"
His first word had to be, "Oh, okay, oh, okay." Like, that's what you are. And then it starts spinning.
Yeah, and the other thing, stuff like that, it brings back fond memories, and I know that you'll be able to look at that and remember exactly how Paul, was in that.
I got him,
and we went to war, together. So
I got his stays. This is his memorial service brochure.
Dude,
And
I got it on
think
my desk.
I keep it
too.
right there. It's going up on the wall somewhere back here.
I got it sitting on my desk right next
Yeah,
to right next to my monitor. But I appreciate you, brother.
Yep. Thanks, man.
Good.
Thanks for coming on. Yep.
I'm the only white face in this area. You don't belong here. Stop, I'll shoot you in the back.